Today's guest is the director at Attree Real Estate, Steve Arscott. Hi everyone, I'm Bo Geeling's Attree Real Estate, and this is Attree Unplugged. G'day Stephen, how you going?
G'day Bo, thanks for having me this morning, nice and early.
Thank you for coming on, I appreciate it. So we started last week with Kevin telling his story of Attree Real Estate, how it was all formed. We went back and touched on his career towards the end before starting Attree Real Estate, then went through the merge, which the guys will see coming out tomorrow. So just wanted to get your perspective, and the first question is probably going to throw you a little bit, but I want us to start fair way back if you can, and what life was like growing up in Exmouth.
Ooh, Exmouth. I was one of the last babies born at the Exmouth District Hospital, I know that, in 1982, mate. So I was blessed, I think, to live a life in Exmouth. Very carefree, safe, lots of fun, lots of weekend fun, after school fun, beaching, diving, a life of adventure at a very early age. And great upbringing, great place and great times.
Beautiful. The next part I want to bring up is probably a little bit selfish because I like F1, but talk me through a little bit of the go-karting.
Oh, go-karting again.
You're still doing.
Yeah, probably go-karting's been one of those sports that I grew up again in Exmouth, travelling the northwest from towns all the way to Telfer, Newman, Port Hedland, Tom Price, Carnarvon, Karratha, Geraldton, and then all the way down south. As kids we travelled together as a family and we raced everywhere across the state. And then later, when I eventually moved to Perth, we kept it going, but not quite as much as we did when we were kids.
Yep.
And then obviously back into it in a pretty big way now with my kids.
Yeah, beautiful. Good story. Let's fast track a little bit. You moved to Perth. You talked me through when you joined Maddington Footy Club, and that's when we obviously meet, when you're introduced to Nathan Wan.
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny story, that one. I moved to Exmouth, moved to Perth, originally to do something completely off field, to do a aircraft mechanic.
Which we'll touch on.
Yeah, which was probably something that set me up as well in life a little bit. But I was getting out of real estate, out of mechanicking into real estate, and also changing football clubs because I sort of was residing in Thornley, and I didn't feel quite at home where I was playing footy.
Yep.
Got involved in the Maddington Football Club with a great mate that got me down there, and the rest is history, really. I didn't really get to know Nath probably for about sort of 6 to 12 months after being at Maddo.
Yep.
But yeah, we sort of formed a pretty good friendship, and then we realised we lived literally 200 metres from each other, and then of course beers and parties and shenanigans, mate, happened after that. So yeah.
No, beautiful. So we touched on it briefly, the mechanical engineer. So going from that to real estate, talk me through that decision and how that happened.
Yeah, very lucky to grow up. Obviously, stemming back to Exmouth, my folks had an air charter company, so very lucky to grow up in that aviation environment, learning tools and obviously go-karting, learning tools at a very young age. And then, I think, just turned 18. I was in Exmouth. I was struggling to get a job up there where it was more of a trade type job. Dad had a contact down here at Jandakot and rang him and said, yep, we've just lost someone working for us. Can he start Monday? So literally I packed up my 1986 Mazda 626 and drove down, and the rest was history. So, and started an apprenticeship in aircraft mechanics, and then mainly engine building.
Yep.
And then got from that to real estate because I did talk a lot, and I probably annoyed the hell out of everyone in that workshop.
Yep.
and yeah, eventually got into real estate from there.
So coming into real estate, was Pete already, your old man, was he already in real estate at that stage?
Yeah, he was. He owned a company in Belmont, Central 21, and then he sort of freelanced to a couple of joints, Real Estate Champions, and then Brown Murray, and then eventually started in a company called Rain and Horn.
Yep.
And that's how he got me in. I'd just done a knee in footy, and I was off work for a few weeks. And I've got to step back because I actually, at that time, hated real estate. Like, mum and dad were both in it. They used to come home and talk about this vendor, this sale, this. And I was just like, guys, get a life. Like, you've got better things to talk about than real estate.
Yep.
And I suppose the old adage of a real estate agent, we always used to look at them and think they were about to sell you something or do something. Yeah, I don't know. They were, they were classed as not great people.
Yeah.
So real estate was never a career choice for me. It was just literally I fell into a course that I was going to sit on the couch and probably play Nintendo or something like that. And Dad was like, nah, mate, you got to go and do something. So there's a course, go do a real estate course. And I eventually did that whilst I was recovering from knee surgery.
Beautiful. So he closes, this was the Kenwick branch that he was at?
Yeah, it was Rain and Horn Southern River, which was in Kenwick, which is quite strange, Southern River to Kenwick, it's a bit different. But that was the first place that I started working. Yep.
Beautiful. So move forward a little bit, and he ends up moving out of that one and opening Canning Vale with yourself?
First, started Rain and Horn Thornley, and we all worked there, had some great mates, we worked all together, it was quite a good environment. And then I wanted to grow my wings a little bit and sort of said I wanted to get involved in my own little business. So then I branched out and started Rain and Horn Canning Vale. Dad quickly followed me, and that's where it all sort of started from there in terms of business ownership.
Yep. And the reason I like this story, with going back to sort of pre-Attree, but then obviously moving into the merge and Attree real estate, is obviously sharing the family business side of things with the community as well. It's very, very unique compared to a lot of the franchises and other companies that are out there. Your dad had a special role and actually facilitated the merge with Kevin Attree. Was I right in saying they were at a training session together and they were sitting next to each other? Yeah,
they were. They went to I can't remember what training session it was, but it was one of those sort of, meet and greet type things. And Dad and Kevin sat next to each other. And I just sold a couple around Kevin's patch in Sanctuary Waters, and I remember
how did that go down?
Kevin, Dad were sort of talking and laughing about it, and he goes, oh, yeah, so you're, yeah, okay. And they put two and two together. And I think at the time, Kev was sort of getting to that stage where he was working really hard, and probably needed more of a break, I think, from memory. And he said to Pete, he said, hey, would you guys be interested in looking at something, And of course, Dad came home and said to me, hey, what do you think? And I was like, wow, that's a big opportunity and a scary one as well, because, we were only really a small company where we were positioned at the time. We'd only been going for probably a year and a half to 2 years as well. So we were an early company. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's how it started, was from just a chance meeting where they sat next to each other. So yeah,
the rest is history, they say.
It is, yeah.
Any special memories through the merge for yourself, or what's maybe not that? Maybe what was the involvement for you? Obviously coming in with Pete, with Kev, and obviously Nathan as well. What was maybe your involvement early on?
Yeah, I think going back, I was probably quite naive to how a merge works. Didn't understand a lot of it, and in terms of business ownership, as much as I semi-owned a business, I was pretty green. Like, I didn't really know a lot about certain aspects of running a business and owning a business. I think the most exciting part was going into the unknown, but it was a risk and it was an opportunity, and I'd never want to shy away from an opportunity. If something's there and I'm like, wow, how do we make this work? Like, I'll have a crack at it, even though if it does stretch our capabilities a little bit. That's one thing that I remember looking back at it going, we can't do this. This is going to be too big of a move, but we ended up making it happen.
Beautiful. So. Fast forward.
Yep.
Now where we sit, obviously with yourself and Nath predominantly running the business.
Yep.
What's your sort of day-to-day look like, and maybe where do you see, or where do you want to see Attree in maybe sort of 5-10 years? Yeah,
and that's an interesting one, because I actually ask myself some days what's my actual purpose, because it changes from day to day. Back in the early days, like when we'd kicked off, predominantly it was just sales. I was selling. And I love selling. I love sitting in the lounge room of people's homes, and more just becoming a team with that owner, I suppose.
Yep.
I love the challenge of trying to sell a home, whether it's the tough markets of 90 days on market, or it's a challenge of getting a really good price in a short amount of time, as we're seeing at the moment. So probably the early days was more selling, and the more challenge of trying to find stock to sell and stuff like that, where now I get a real big enjoyment out of watching the business and the people grow within the business. So some days my daily job is to list and sell, and then some days I think it might just to be throw some banter around the office to bring some energy up. It's just a real, as a business owner, and it's a real challenge to know exactly what your daily task is. Some days there's not a lot to do, but then some days you're actually snowed under with problems that arise from just day-to-day activity.
Yep. One of the things that I wanted to bring up in this is obviously our relationship. So we met pre me starting with Attree.
Yeah.
You sold a few houses for me, and you sold some of my family houses.
Yep.
Probably wouldn't be sitting here interviewing you without you selling my first home. So let's go back. I mean, I've been at Attree 8 years, so it would have been probably 10 years ago that you sold my first home. I was new to the industry. I think I might have crashed you for a little bit to see if there was any openings, but we started our relationship a while ago before Attree.
Yeah, we did. I remember selling your mum and dad's home in Canning Vale, and at the time, I think when I first met you, you were pretty hungover. It was a Saturday morning. I think you'd just been out on a Friday, and I had a home open that day, and you were reluctantly letting me through the front door. You were perched up in that little theatre in the front room there. And obviously from there got to know you and your family quite well. And you had an investment property that you said, hey, can you go and have a look at? And went and had a look at it, and I suppose the rest was history from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, what do you see? Where would you like to see Attree maybe 10, even 15 years down the track?
Yeah. It's a tough question, that one. I think a core of professional, honest, fun, going completely the opposite stereotype of a real estate agent, where a lot of the real estate agents just after commission, after a short career. I think longevity is really big for me. So when someone's in a career for a long time, they don't have to be the world's best real estate agent, but they've got to be in the position for a long time to gather good momentum and gather a good trade of the job.
I think the longevity side of things is down to you and Monty as well, in terms of the culture and things like that you set in the business. I mean, there's not the long-serving tenure from property managers to selling agents is pretty impressive here.
Yeah, and even, especially the sales agents, because sales can be quite, people hop and jump from different agencies, and one thing we try to do here is offer that flexibility. We make, I think Nathan and I, and Kevin and my dad and everyone that's involved, and Mel and everyone that's involved in the business, we try not to make the business about us. So I don't put myself above any person in the business. So I'd rather that person in the business be happier than where I am in the business, if that makes sense. So that to me is my motto. Yep. And I know Nath breeds that as well. You know, some days we sit there and go, wow, like the business is going really well and everything's going to plan. But necessarily me and Nath might be making not a lot of money. But, you know, it's everyone else in the business is generally happy. Yep. There's growth for them. There's opportunities for them. You know, and that's the biggest thing for me. You know, when I look at why do we have a lot of long-serving staff here is because there's progression. You know, you can start yourself as a receptionist here and then become the absolute sort of ultimate sales administrator manager of a business. You know, and you talk about Amy in the office. We employed her as a fresh-faced 17-year-old. She's still fresh-faced now, but she's grown dramatically from just a receptionist that handled limited duties to she literally is our CPU of the business. You know, she runs everything because we've given her that progression.
Responsibility.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. I appreciate it. It's an interesting story from Exmouth to go-karting to aircraft engineer to sales rep to director of Attree.
Yeah.
And it's a cool story that I wanted to share. And again, we just wanted to share with the community how Attree was formed.
Yeah.
And the major people that were involved in it with yourself and your old man. So I appreciate you coming on, mate.
No, thanks for having me, bro. It was worth the early start to the day. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.